Hello, welcome to Raj Shikshan Samstha's Dada Patil Mahavidyalaya Karjat. I am Dr. M. A. Patil, working as Associate Professor in the Department of Physics. Today, I would like to discuss about the first chapter, Physics of Atoms, in the FY BSc, paper second, Physics Principles and Applications. Introduction. Before going to introduction, this physics of atoms. Atoms, it is the smallest part of any material that we found around us. For example, if we take a chalk and if we go on cutting it into small pieces, the smallest part will be the atom. Therefore, it is important to understand the physics of atoms, that is the structure of atoms. Introduction. As we know, atom is made up of nucleus and the electrons are surrounding it. This nucleus is at the center. It is composed of the protons and neutrons. Hence, protons and neutrons are the constituent particles of the nucleus. The diameter of nucleus is about 10 raised to minus 15 meters. That means the size of the nucleus can be mentioned in terms of its diameter, very small size. The constituent particles, protons, is having the mass 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kilogram, and it is having plus 1 charge, that is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. The second constituent of the nucleus is neutron. It is having mass which is 1.008 times more than proton. It means neutron is slightly heavier than the proton and there is no charge on the neutron. So neutron is electrically neutral. The another part of the atom is electron. The mass of electron is negligible. It is about 1 upon 1836 times the mass of the proton. Means the mass of the electron is negligible. It is having the charge minus 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. It is generally it is referred as minus 1 charge. These electrons revolve around the nucleus in different shells or orbits. It is well known that atom as a whole, it means together with this central nucleus and electron is electrically neutral, means that atom have no charge. And this neutral charge is achieved by maintaining the number of protons equal to number of neutrons. As we have seen, protons are positively charged, that is plus 1 charge, and electron have minus 1 charge. Hence, if their number is same, the atom maintains its neutrality. The mass of the atom is generally decided by the nucleus. So the massive part of the atom is nucleus, and inside the nucleus, as we know, there are protons and neutrons. Hence, the mass of the atom is decided by protons and neutrons. Then, as we have seen, electrons are revolving around the nucleus in different orbits. The electrons which are in the outermost orbits are called as valence electrons, and these valence electrons are very important because they decides the property of the materials. The properties such as types of bonding, when two or more atoms join together with the help of different bonds. This bonding is dependent upon this valence electron as well as chemical reactivity, the electrical and the optical properties. All these important properties are decided by valence electrons. Though we know all about this atom, but behind this there is a lot of work by different scientists, and hence they propose their models. So we have to discuss about different models suggested by different scientists. The first model was suggested by Thomson's. Hence, we will see Thomson's atomic model. This Thomson's model is also known as plum pudding model. He proposed his model in the year 1898. Statements. Thomson made statements for his model. First statement is that according to Thomson, the atom is spherical in shape, and this atom is filled with positively charged matter. The positive charge is distributed uniformly. In this diagram, we can see that the positive charges are distributed uniformly, and there are number of electrons embedded inside this. This number of electrons balances the positive charge. Second postulate, the radius of sphere of atom is about 10 raised to minus 10 meter. So from center, if we measure the distance up to this periphery, it is about 10 raised to minus 10 meter. And third important postulate by Thomson is that an atom is electrically neutral. So total atom, this complete sphere is electrically neutral, and therefore whatever positive charge due to this inside this sphere is equal to the total negative charge due to these electrons. The electrons possess vibratory motion about the equilibrium position. Means if we see this electron, it is vibrating about its equilibrium position, and due to this vibrational motion, there is emission of light. So these statements, four statements was made by Thomson. But Thomson could not explain certain things, and therefore there are certain drawbacks of this Thomson's atomic model. So first drawback is that he could not explain the scattering of alpha particles incident on metal foils. Means that when alpha particles are incident on certain metals, then there is a scattering, there is change in the direction of the incident alpha particles. So this scattering could not be explained by this Thomson's model. Then the emission of spectral lines by the atoms. So every atom emits certain spectral lines. So there is an atomic spectra. So this atomic spectra cannot be explained on the basis of Thomson's atomic model. Then another scientist known as Rutherford performed the scattering experiment. So the scattering of alpha particles on gold foil was performed by this Rutherfords. The experimental arrangement can be seen from this diagram. In this diagram, we have this lead box. The black box is the lead box. Inside this box, this red round shows that it is a source. Radium acts as a source of alpha particles. This source is surrounded from all sides, but there is only one small opening, so that through this small opening the alpha particle will come out. So a fine beam of alpha particle comes from this box, that is from source, then it moves along this direction. So a very fine beam of alpha particle is emitted along this axis of this hole. Then these emitted alpha particles are allowed to fall on this gold foil. This is a very thin sheet of gold material having the thickness of 10 raised to minus 6 meter. Then after incident on this gold foil, the alpha particles are scattered in different directions. So we can see here the incident direction was along the axis of the hole, and then scattered beam is in different directions. These alpha particles are received on the zinc sulfide fluorescent screen. This is a photographic plate, and the front side of the photographic plate is covered with a zinc sulfide ZNS fluorescent screen. So fluorescent screen is that when certain rays are incident on this screen, then fluorescence, that is flash of light, is observed. So this flash of light can be studied, can be observed in dark room with the help of microscope. So there are certain facts which are observed during this scattering experiment. The first point is that most of the alpha particle passed straight through the gold foil, and out of that only some or few suffered a small deflection. Means when they are at the exterior part of this atom, these alpha particles incident on this gold atom travels in a straight line without much deflection. Then second observation was that a very small number, that is only 1 in 10,000, deflected through large angles greater than 90 degree. That means if this is the incident direction of the alpha particles, then this line shows the perpendicular direction. So the angle greater than this, the deflection was very small in number. And the important observation was that very rare case was observed for which there was a reverse or back uh, deflection along its own path, and that is these rays were scattered in the angle or through angle more than 180 degrees. So when the incident particle were exactly in the direction of the center of the atom, the deflection was more than 90 degree or near about 180 degree. So these were the observed facts from the Rutherford's scattering experiment. Then Rutherford explained the facts why these observations, particular observations, were seen. So first he stated that the scattering of these alpha particles is due to the force between charged alpha particles and charge of the atom of the foil. If we consider that the positive charge and the electrons are uniformly distributed over the atom of the foil that was proposed by Thomson, then in that case the scattering of alpha particles will be very small, and there will be no possibility of deflection through large angles. Therefore, the scattering must be due to the incident alpha particles and the positive charged massive part at the center of the nucleus of the atom. Second fact can be explained that most of the alpha particle passes through the foil. It suggests that atom must have empty space. This is very important, as most of the alpha particles which were incident away from the central part or at the periphery, they pass without the deflection, and hence it was suggested that there must be empty space outside area of the atom. Then the third important explanation was for the scattering, which was at larger angles. So this large scattering angle, it was not due to the electrons, as we have seen electrons are having very negligible mass. So when the collision of the alpha particle and electron, takes place, there is no possibility of scattering. Hence, the scattering could be possible only when these alpha particles hit massive things like and it is possible only when the entire positive charge of the atom and its mass are concentrated in the central core called as the nucleus of the atom. It means that if we assume the central positive massive nucleus and around this there is empty space, then there will be the large scattering angle possible. And hence, after giving this explanation, Rutherford concluded that the entire positive charge and the mass of the atom is concentrated in a small core called nucleus. So the concept of nucleus was first proposed by Rutherford. Secondly, he concluded that the diameter of the nucleus may be about 10 raised to minus 15 meter, and he also concluded that the diameter of the whole atom is about 10 raised to minus 10 meter. So if we compare these two figures, 10 raised to minus 10 and 10 raised to minus 15 meter, then we observe that in between central positive nucleus and the outer pass there is very large space. It is about millions of meters. Hence, the nucleus occupies a very small volume, and outside that there is very large empty space. Then Rutherford made statements about this atomic model. The first statement he made was an atom contains a very small central part called the nucleus in which whole mass of the positive charge are concentrated, means a central massive part is the nucleus whose size is about 10 raised to minus 15 meter. The atom is electrically neutral so that the equal number of electrons are distributed in space around the nucleus to balance the positive charge. This was the important statement that the nucleus at the center and these electrons are revolving around this central nucleus and they balances this structure. Third one, electrons are not stationary but revolving around the nucleus like planets move around the sun. So Rutherford compared this motion of electrons who revolves around the central positive nucleus same as the planets are revolving around the sun. But still there are certain drawbacks in this Rutherford's model. The first drawback is that he proposed that electrons are revolving around the nucleus, they must be accelerating because electrons are charged particles, negatively charged particles, they are moving with certain velocity. At each point, the direction of electron is changing, and therefore, according to electromagnetic theory, such charged accelerating particles must radiate energy. And when energy is radiated, there is continuous loss of energy. Energy goes on decreasing and decreasing, and the electron, instead of moving in a circular path, moves in a spiral path of decreasing radius. And at last, the radius is so decreased that electron falls into the nucleus when whole energy is spent, when electron loses its total energy. And this results in an annihilation of atom. That means the structure of atom is collapse. Second drawback is that the revolving electrons must emit continuous radiations of all increasing frequency. So according to Rutherford, the electrons are vibrating around its equilibrium positions and therefore it's accelerating particles radiating energy, and hence the frequency, all frequencies are possible. But it is observed that the elements emit spectral lines of fixed frequencies, means all frequencies are not possible, only certain frequencies are possible. So these were two main drawbacks of Rutherford's model. First, it cannot explain the stability of the atom. Second, it cannot explain the particular frequencies are emitted by atom. Then one important thing was that Rutherford's atom model could not explain the distribution of electrons, as the background picture shows that around this central nucleus the electrons are revolving in different orbits or in different shells. So this model could not explain how many electrons are there in particular shell or in particular orbit. So these are the drawbacks of Rutherford's atomic model. Then the next scientists who work on this structure of atom, who try to understand the structure of atom, is the Niels Bohr. So why these scientists Bohr need to develop a new theory or to develop a new structure of atom? There are certain points. The previous model was Rutherford's atomic model, and this atomic model assumed that electrons revolves around the central nucleus like a sun planet system. Means in planetary system, different planets are revolving around the sun in planetary orbits. Similarly, Rutherford assumed that electrons are revolving around the nucleus. In planetary system, whatever centripetal force is required to maintain this revolution, it is provided by gravitational force. On the other hand, for the nucleus electron system, whatever centripetal force required for this circular motion is provided by Coulomb's force between the charged particles. But as proposed in Rutherford's theories, the electrons are charged particles and they are accelerating. So such accelerating charged particles emits radiations in the form of electromagnetic waves. And when such radiations are emitted, energy of the electron continuously decreases, and so there is change in the emitted frequency, and frequency also continuously changes. And as the energy decreases, the path no longer remains as a circular, but it becomes a spiral path, and this spiral goes on inward, and finally electron falls into the nucleus. Here in the diagram we can see that this is a positively charged nucleus, this is electron which is revolving around this. First the path is circular. As the energy is going on decreasing, the path becomes spiral with decreasing radius, and this spiral is inside, and therefore finally it enters into the nucleus. And hence with this Rutherford's model, atom cannot be stable, and that required a new concept for this. And one important um, improvement was necessary to explain the line spectrum. It means that when certain atom emits, the spectrum is line spectrum, means different spectral lines are emitted with fixed frequencies. On the other hand, Rutherford suggested that all frequencies are emitted. Such a spectrum is called as continuous spectrum. So these things led to the scientist Niels Bohr to propose a new model. So Bohr made certain modifications while explaining this atomic structure. So in previous models, that is Thomson model and Rutherford model, they use the classical theory. On the other hand, Bohr's use the quantum hypothesis to explain this atomic structure. According to him, the electron occupies only certain orbits of specific energies. It means that electrons are revolving around the central nucleus in certain orbits only. The orbits which satisfies certain quantum conditions, in that orbits only the electron revolves, and these orbits are having a certain energy. Next, these electron orbits or these electron energies are quantized, means they are certain. The orbits are also stationary. In Rutherford's model, the orbits were non-stationary because in that case the electrons were radiating energy. So energy was decreasing continuously, and therefore the non-stationary orbits were there. On the other hand, Bohr suggested that there are stationary orbits in which the electrons are revolving. Such orbits are non-radiating orbits, and therefore these orbits are at fixed distances from nucleus. Means first orbit, second orbit, third orbit, all these orbits are at fixed distances from the nucleus. So these important modifications were assumed by Bohr to explain his model. Then one important aspect we have to see here, the atomic spectrum. So here we can see the experimental arrangement to study the atomic spectra. We can see here a glass tube is required in which the gas atoms or the material whose atomic spectra is to be studied, it is filled. Then we require here a slit so that the beam will be made parallel. Then through prism, such a outcoming rays will incident, and then we can see here the atomic spectra is observed. For example, if it is a hydrogen gas atom, then we can observe the physical spectra. So this is a screen on which we can observe the spectra. So one color is corresponding to a specific wavelength or a specific frequency. So this is a simple arrangement with the help of which the atomic spectra can be studied. Then we have a short review how the developments were there regarding the atomic spectra. In the year 1814, first scientist was Fraunhofer, who examined the solar spectrum. Means whatever radiations come out from solar from the sun, they can be categorized according to their wavelength or according to their frequency. So this Fraunhofer mapped 700 lines in solar spectrum. So he placed 700 lines in the solar spectrum. Such lines are called as Fraunhofer lines. These are the dark lines in the solar spectrum. In the year 1817, he experimentally observed for stellar spectra using the prism. So he used a prism. With the help of prism, he actually observed the stellar spectra. The planetary spectra resembles with this solar spectrum. In the year 1885, Balmer developed a formula for the wavelength of hydrogen spectral lines in the visible region. So in particular region, visible region is the region that wavelengths we can see, human can see, is called as visible region. So importantly, this Balmer first formulated these spectral lines with a wavelength of spectral lines for a particular atom, that is hydrogen atom. The wavelengths of lines in visible region, they are related to natural numbers. So Balmer suggested that there are certain orbits, and when the transition from these orbits takes place, the particular spectral lines are observed. Such lines are referred as the Balmer series. The group of lines are referred as Balmer series, and the specific lines are denoted as H alpha line, H beta line, H gamma line. And he suggested the formula for this. The wave number of this particular line is given by R in the bracket 1 upon 4 minus 1 upon n square. And here you can take n is equal to 3, 4, 5. It means that when there is a transition from third orbit, fourth orbit, fifth orbit, or any higher orbit up to the level 2, second orbit, then these lines are observed, and the group of these lines is called as Balmer series. He also calculated the value of constant R known as Rydberg constant for particular this hydrogen atom, and this value comes to be 10.9679 micrometer per. Next to this Balmer, in the year 1906, Lyman studied the ultraviolet spectra of hydrogen atom. Means you can see Balmer studied the spectrum in visible region. On the other hand, this Lyman studied the spectra in the region which is known as ultraviolet region, and the series is known as Lyman series. Here the transition is up to the first level. Then there was another scientist known as Paschen. He used bolometer to find out the spectra which is in the infrared region, and again this spectra were for hydrogen atom. Such a group of lines or the spectral lines series is known as Paschen series. Means we can observe here that this Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, all these scientists work on the hydrogen atom spectra. Balmer studied visible region, Lyman studied in this ultraviolet region, while Paschen studied in the infrared region. Later on, another scientist also work on the spectra, and that scientists are this bracket, Fund, Humphrey, Hansen, and Strong. The different series according to their name. So these scientists find out the series at another transition level, means higher level to the n is equal to say from 1, 2, 3, 4. When the transition takes place from higher level to first orbit, to second orbit, to third orbit, to fourth orbit, different series are generated, and in this way the atomic spectrum was observed. Thank you.